Ready to dive into something that might just turn everything you thought you knew upside down. We're going to be talking about atonement today, but not the traditional fire and brimstone guilt trip kind of atonement you might be picturing. We're going to explore a completely different perspective on it, one that comes from a spiritual text that I find really fascinating. So if you're ready to let go of all those preconceived notions about guilt, punishment, groveling to make amends for past wrongs, then buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it really is a completely different take on atonement. It's more about a shift in perspective. It's about recognizing, realizing that we are all fundamentally one with something much greater than
Yeah.
ourselves, and that oneness extends to every single being and every single thing in existence.
So instead of atonement being about, fixing something that's broken, it's more about realizing that nothing was ever actually broken in the first place.
Exactly. This text suggests that the root of all suffering isn't sin or wrongdoing. It's actually the belief in separation, the belief that we are somehow separate from this higher power, separate from each other, and that separation is actually the illusion. It calls it a tiny mad idea.
A tiny mad idea. I love that phrase. It sounds so uh, almost whimsical, but at the same time, you get the sense that it's something really powerful, right?
Yeah, it's kind of paradoxical in a way. It emphasizes how insignificant this thought of separation actually is. Yet it's this tiny thought that creates so much suffering in the world. Because if we believe we're separate from this source of love, from this higher power, then of course the ideas of sin and guilt naturally follow.
Right, makes sense. So the separation is an illusion. Then does that mean sin and guilt are also illusions?
That's exactly what this text argues. It's all part of the dream of separation.
Wow. So in this framework, atonement is about waking up from that dream.
Yeah, that's right.
And the really mind-blowing part is that this text claims that atonement is already a done deal. We don't have to do anything to earn it.
It's not about earning or achieving. It's about recognizing and accepting. Recognizing that our true nature is already whole, innocent, inseparably connected to the divine. That connection has never been broken.
So the challenge is accepting this truth.
It is. And you know that acceptance is a choice.
So it's not a passive thing. We don't just sit back and say, okay, I'm at one with everything. I guess I can just relax and do nothing.
Not quite. Acceptance is an active process. It's a conscious choice we make in every moment to align our thoughts and feelings and actions with this awareness of our true nature.
So we're choosing to see the world and ourselves through a different lens, a lens of love and unity rather than fear and separation.
Exactly.
That makes me think about forgiveness. I have a feeling that even forgiveness takes on a whole new meaning in this context.
Oh, definitely. Forgiveness here isn't about condoning wrong behavior or letting people off the hook. It's about recognizing the inherent innocence in everyone, including ourselves.
Wow. So we're not just forgiving others, we're also forgiving ourselves.
Absolutely. It's all part of the same process of recognizing that the separation is an illusion.
So how do we actually do that? How do we shift our perception to align with this truth of oneness? I know this text mentions something about an inner guide, right?
Yeah, it speaks of a kind of inner teacher, a
Yeah.
gentle presence that helps to correct our misperceptions and guide us back to the truth. It does this without any judgment or condemnation. It's more like a loving friend who's always there to remind us who we really are.
That's beautiful. So it's always there waiting for us to listen.
It is.
And are these moments when our perception shifts, when we suddenly see things in a new light? Are those what the text calls miracles?
Yes. Miracles in this context aren't about supernatural events or defying the laws of nature. They're about shifts in perception, moments when we glimpse the truth of oneness and allow that truth to transform our experience.
So it's not about waiting for some external force to intervene. It's about something happening within us. We're choosing at one. We're choosing love over fear. We're choosing to see the unity instead of the separation.
That's the heart of it.
That's really empowering.
It is, and this text points to a well-known spiritual figure who embodied this principle of at-one-ment perfectly.
Oh, right. And not as a figure of sacrifice, but as someone who fully embraced their divine nature and showed us that it's possible for us to do the same.
Precisely. Demonstrating that the illusion of separation has no real power over us. We can choose to awaken to the same truth.
This is truly a mind-bending concept. It changes everything about how we view our relationship with this higher power, with ourselves, with everyone around us. We're not fixing something broken. We're realizing that we were never broken in the first place.
And that realization can change everything. It can transform how we live, how we work, how we connect with others.
It's incredible to think about how this idea of at-one-ment can impact even the most mundane aspects of our lives, like how we handle a stressful workday or a disagreement with a loved one.
Imagine approaching every interaction, every challenge, with the awareness that we're all fundamentally connected, that we're all expressions of the same source.
It's a whole different way of being in the world.
It is.
It's a lot to take in, but it's incredibly inspiring.
It is.
Makes you wonder what would be possible if we all embrace this at Atonement.
That's a beautiful thought.
It really is.
And it all starts with a choice to see ourselves and each other as expressions of the same divine love.
That's a great point to reflect on. We'll be right back to explore how this concept can be applied to our daily lives, at home, work, and even in school. Stay tuned.
All right, so let's bring this idea of at-one-ment down to earth a little bit. How does this shift from separation to unity, how does that actually play out in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. We've been talking about some pretty big concepts, but how does this apply at home, at work, or even in a classroom setting?
Well, let's start with relationships. How often do conflicts arise from feeling like we're not being understood, or from feeling separate from the people around us, or even threatened by them?
Oh, all the time, right. We're constantly bumping up against each other, trying to protect our egos, our sense of self.
Exactly. But what if we approach those situations with the awareness that we're not actually separate, that we're not in competition with each other for resources or validation? What if we saw those moments as opportunities to recognize our shared humanity, to connect with that deeper truth that unites us all?
I mean, that's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in that illusion of separation, especially when we're feeling hurt or angry or threatened.
It is. It definitely takes practice. It's a conscious choice we have to make to see beyond those surface differences and to connect with that deeper level of truth.
So instead of seeing that annoying coworker as a threat, I should see them as someone who's also just struggling and seeking happiness, just like me.
Exactly. It doesn't mean that we condone bad behavior or that we become passive. It's about choosing to see the situation through a lens of compassion and understanding.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. It sounds like a real challenge, but also really freeing. What about in a school setting? How does this apply to teachers and students, to the whole learning environment?
Well, imagine a classroom where learning is approached as a shared purpose,
Right.
where everyone understands that they're in it together.
Okay, so instead of the teacher being the sole authority, with the students just passively absorbing information.
It becomes a collaborative exploration. Everyone's perspective is valued. Everyone's contribution is important.
That sounds like a much more conducive environment for learning and growth.
It is. And think about conflict resolution. Instead of using punishment or exclusion, disagreements are addressed with a focus on understanding and empathy, with the goal of restoring harmony.
It sounds a little idealistic, I have to admit, but I can see how it could foster a much more supportive and inclusive environment.
It's a shift from a mindset of scarcity and competition to a mindset of abundance and cooperation.
So we're basically rewiring our brains to see the world and each other in a whole new light.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And that rewiring, that shift in perception is really what Atonement is all about.
So it's not just some abstract spiritual concept. It has real-world implications for how we live and relate to each other, and how we create a more loving and just world.
That's the beauty of it. It's a transformative idea that can touch every aspect of our lives.
This is a lot to absorb, but it's really inspiring.
It is.
It makes you wonder, what would be possible if we all truly embrace this at Atonement?
It's a journey, not a destination. Every step we take towards love and forgiveness and understanding brings us closer to realizing that oneness.
Maybe that's what will ultimately heal our world.
It's a beautiful possibility. It all starts with a choice. A choice to see ourselves and each other as expressions of the same divine love.
That's a powerful thought, and a great point to reflect on. We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our exploration of this revolutionary concept of atonement. Don't go anywhere.
So we've really gone deep on this idea of atonement today, haven't we? It's a whole different way of looking at things than what a lot of us might be used to.
Yeah, I think we've managed to unpack a lot of this text really unique perspective on it. I mean, it's not about beating ourselves up for our mistakes or trying to appease some angry deity.
Not at all. It's more about remembering who we truly are. Remembering that we are already connected to something so much bigger than ourselves.
Right, and that connection has always been there. It's never been broken, no matter what we've done or haven't done.
We've just sort of forgotten about it, haven't we? We've gotten caught up in this illusion of separation. And that's what causes all the suffering.
And the way to end that suffering is to wake up from that illusion.
And that's what this atonement is all about, right?
And that's why forgiveness is so important. It's how we let go of that separation and come back to that place of love and unity.
And that forgiveness extends to ourselves as well.
Right. We can't forget that part. We have to forgive ourselves for believing in the separation in the first place.
It's all part of the same process.
So where do we go from here? How do we take this idea of atonement and make it a part of our everyday lives?
Well, it starts with that choice, that conscious decision to shift our perception.
To see the world through the lens of unity instead of separation?
And to remember that we have that inner guide, that gentle voice within us that's always there to help us along the way.
So maybe the real question isn't how we achieve atonement, but how we allow ourselves to experience it.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
It's not about striving or earning something. It's about surrendering to something that's already there.
And allowing that truth to transform us.
It's a journey, and it's one that we all have the power to take.
And it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap things up for today. I hope this has given you a lot to think about and maybe even inspired you to see the world and yourself in a whole new light. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the concept of atonement. Until next time, take care.